These Kenyan independent veterans have travelled to Britain seeking justice and an apology.
I first became aware of the Mau Mau's court case in June 2009 when I read an article about 5 of the claimants coming from Kenya to London to seek reparations for torture they endured at the hands of the British colonial government in the 1950s. My name's Jemma Gander and I'm a documentary filmmaker. I like making films about social injustice in a small meagre hope that it may open someone's eyes and help towards a cause. I contacted the claimants once I'd heard about their case, and for the last year and a half I have been filming with them in Kenya and in London.
My name is Getua Kahengeri. I am a freedom fighter. Our aim was only to liberate Kenya and to regain our dignity.
I knew a bit about what was going on in these camps. This was a complete hidden setup of torture.
We're talking the 1950s. It's not far away temporally from the Nazi Holocaust. The fact that generally the European Conventions on Human Rights, the never again that's being resonated throughout the world is happening. And wouldn't you know, here in the back door of the British Empire, the British are setting up detention camps. These are forced labor camps.
Dear Mr. Brown, Muingatuna Kihoto nda chokaga, Muingatuna Juguma na chokaga. We are Kenyans in our 70s and 80s who have traveled to London from our rural villages to tell the world of torture we lived through at the hands of the British colonial regime. We represent the forgotten people of Kenya, whose story has finally emerged and whose cry for justice has become too deeply felt to remain unheard.
Hallelujah. Amen. Amen. I want all of you standing up. All of you standing up.
Landlessness, poverty, and lack of access to education. These problems have not been solved. Kenya is, I think, at the present time in 2010, it's still standing on the precipice of a very serious political implosion.
We ask you, Mr. Brown, to consider our case because we are now friends. We are no longer enemies, and we would like to invite you to visit Kenya and meet our communities and families who were so affected by the brutality of those times.
The British government is either knowingly or unknowingly waging a war of attrition on the Mau Mau torture survivors. Most of these survivors are now quite advanced in age and do not have a long time to live. In fact, early this month, one of our lead claimants, Susan Gondi, passed away. We contend that the Mau Mau torture survivors have waited already too long for justice, and the time to get justice is now.
We've cut the film in terms of the case so far. We've spoken to all of the key players, key historians, barristers, the claimants themselves, but there are still developments in the pipeline. In April this year, the 4 remaining claimants will be travelling once again to London to have their case heard in the Royal Courts of Justice. And I want to be there to film, to witness and to document the conclusion of this very important case, to find out if these 4 elderly Kenyans can finally get the justice they seek.
I feel almost destroyed by the fact that you can keep on and on and on and on without creating a closure. It's time for closure. It really is time for closure.